Stop saying Baka all the time. Now, if you know what Baka means, omedetou, you could call me an idiot in my own language. But there's so many more swear words in Japanese that we actually use non-stop. But avoid saying these in Japanese to the natives if you don't want any tatakai moments. Number 1, kuso, 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 which means crap or shit. But I personally think it's more similar to the F-U-C-K F word because you can say kusomai, which is like, this tastes so effing good. Kusoge, which means it's a terrible video game and nobody wants to play this game. Kusomoroi, which means it's so effing funny. It's flexible, just put it in front of a Japanese word you know and it'll probably be funny. Number 2, shiruka. Shiruka. Shiruka literally means I don't give a frick. Now this one is purely offensive and there's no other way to turn this into a positive phrase. So it actually comes from the word shiru, which means to know. And technically adding ka at the end would just make it a question in Japanese. Like, do I know? Shiruka. Do I know? But, however. Let's actually put this into a context of the Nihon no bunka, Nihon's culture. We know that Japan in general does not like confrontations. Like, you essentially don't want to be too direct even if somebody asks you a direct question. Close your eyes and imagine you're drinking a little matcha at a local matcha shop in Kyoto. Then a little oba-chan, a little grandma comes up to you and says, "Ashita wa hareru ka shitteru kai?" Do you know if tomorrow's gonna be sunny? And then you turn around and say, "Shiruka." Yes, technically you said, do I know? Like, why would I know? But in Japan, 100% it would turn into a better equivalent sentence of I don't give a frick. I don't give a frick about that question. I can't even believe you asked me that question. And to really show that the question was stupid, I'm gonna show no respect to the reply. I'm gonna say shiruka. So you might be like, oh my god, what should I say instead? So if you don't know the answer to a question in Japan, the best course of action would be for you to say, chotto shiranai kamoshiremasen, which literally means like, oh, that's a little, I might not know. Actually, it might not be in my knowledge in a respectful way. So one more time, chotto shiranai kamoshiremasen. See, now the little oba-chan is not offended. It's not gonna give her a heart attack for saying shiruka to her face. If you wanna know what exactly would and will not cause a heart attack to the Japanese people, check out my Skillshare on Hiragana and Katakana, the two most basic writing system in Japanese you have to know to get started on your journey to Japanese fluency. Also, give a big like for the channel and that really helps out. Number 3, fuzakenna. Fuzakenna. Fuzakenna means stop fricking with me or don't frick with me. So it stems from the word fuzakeru, which means to goof around, to mess around with your friends or just in public. And that word itself is actually used pretty often in public in Japan. I remember in school, girls would repeatedly say, "Sensei, danshi ga fuzakete zenzen souji shite nai," which means, teacher, the boys are goofing around and they're not cleaning. They're not cleaning during cleaning time. In Japan, during school, there is a cleaning time every single day in which you have to clean your own schools. Like, janitors don't have to do it most of the time. We have to clean it every single day. And I'll be honest, I have been ratted a couple times. It was when I was playing around with the broom, like Sasuke's katana. It just came out. I was like, pa 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 pa, sensei. And then I was, I was a little bit in the fuzaketeru mode. But the way fuzakeru might turn into a little bit of fighting words if you say to a Japanese person is if you conjugate it to fuzakenna, because you are implying that the other person is messing around or goofing around, even if they aren't. And not only that, you're asking or you're commanding them to stop. And a lot of times, if you really want to mean it to be a fighting word, you could add a little insult at the end. So you could say like, fuzakenna baka, which is like, stop messing around because you're stupid. And you're stupid, I guess. If you already know some basics of the Japanese language, but you want to be able to be pera Japanese fluent, check out Nihongo Master, one of the sponsors in the description down below, and it would give you 100+ Japanese lessons for you to practice on. Use that specific link because it helps me out. Number 4, Kusai. Kusai. Kusai is kind of one of those words that's kind of hard to translate for Japanese to English, and it actually literally means something smells bad, something is in my scent. Like, it doesn't just mean that something smells, it means something smells bad in a certain way. It's a negative smell up your nostrils. Some people could stretch the end and say kusei. So obviously one of the ways, the first ways you could say is you could walk into a room and say, ちょっとなんか臭いんだけど, which means there's a little something smells bad in here. Something has an awful scent. But as an insult, you could tell that other person, you smell bad. Oh my kusai. But kusai can transform to actually many different meanings. Like furukusai means something is old-fashioned, and it's out of style, and it's kind of a little bit tough to look at. One of the ways you could say is like furukusai jodan is like an old, really dumb jodan, which means joke. So really old-fashioned joke, like that wasn't funny. That was stale. That was not funny. Namagusai, which means something smells like it's raw and it's bad. It's like, oh, that sushi shouldn't be smelling like namagusai. I guess not sushi, because sushi is obviously raw, but something that shouldn't be smelling like it's raw and rotting. Namagusai. Sakegusai, which means you smell like alcohol. Maybe a little tired salaryman coming home at midnight and smells like alcohol because he's been at a izakaya. Sakegusai. Asiksai, which means ase is a sweat, so you smell like sweat, you're dirty, you just ran a marathon, you don't smell good, or you're in Japan and the heat got you got your armpits a little bit dripping. Asiksai. But obviously all those have a negative connotation, so kusai is a negative word for sure. Number 5, bokeh. Oh my, bokeh. No, I think bokeh is a top 3 insults in Japan that I'm surprised it hasn't come to the international stage in the online, online regime yet. So the first one I know, the most popular one I think, is what I said you should stop saying, is baka. Baka, which means idiot. You could use it like bakaka, which means are you an idiot? You could also stretch it out and say baka, which is popular. But if you say sasi baka or you smell like a baka, then that's not popular. If you say it in Japan, they wouldn't understand. They would be like, what? Nani? Then the second most used could be aho. Aho, which means stupid. Some people say Osaka, people use aho more, but I like oha. I'm from Osaka. I like aho. It's not as popular, but it's slowly getting there. And you can also say ahoka, which means are you stupid? But the way to stretch aho, it's good to know, would actually be aho, not aho. It'll be aho. Oh my aho, like that. But I do think the third insult that is the most popular is bokeh. I remember one of the Haikyuu scenes that I just reacted to called Hinata. I think Kageyama called Hinata Bokeh. Bokeh Hinata. And Bokeh literally means dumb or dumbass. You dumbass Hinata, Bokeh Hinata. I think for Bokeh, the rhythm fits better when the something after it has 3 syllables, like Bokeh Hinata. If you say Bokeh Matsu, it doesn't sound as good. Maybe Baka Matsu, Aho Matsu. Tell me which one sounds the best. But obviously, I'm a tensai, a genius, so it wouldn't bother me. Which insult would you use? Obviously don't use it without joking, or you're gonna have some tatakai moments. Subscribe to join the Nakama. New videos are on the way. Like, because that really subscribes to the channel. Like, because that really helps out the channel. And peace.